Good morning. So let's begin with the parsha for the week, which is Chaye Sarah, which means the life of Sarah. It actually begins with Sarah's death. It begins by the words, the life of Sarah was, or she lived for 127 years, which is quite a long life, although her husband Abraham lived to 175, so he outlived her by about 48 years. Excuse me. And so the Torah tells us that then, with Sarah having died, Abraham was a foreigner in the land of Canaan. He did not come from there, and so he owned no land, and he needed a place to bury his wife. And so he lives in Hebron. He turns to the people of Hebron and asks them, says, "Please sell me a plot of land that I can bury my wife. I could dig a grave." And they say, "You can bury your wife anywhere in the best of our cemeteries, wherever you like, you could bury your wife." He said, "No, I have a specific request. I would like the cave of Machpelah, which is in the field belonging to Ephron the Hittite." It doesn't say why Abraham wanted particularly that cave, but the Medrash tells us that Adam and Eve had both been buried in that cave. And that's why Abraham wanted it. At first, Ephron offers it to him for free, but Abraham insists on paying. And so Ephron charges him an exorbitant sum, 400 shekels, which in today's pricing would be extremely cheap for any property. But then it would have been very expensive, apparently. And Abraham purchases the field, and he buries his wife Sarah there. Later, Abraham himself is going to be buried there by his children. His son Isaac and daughter-in-law Rebekah are buried there, and his grandson Jacob and Jacob's wife Leah are buried there. And so the cave of Machpelah becomes the home to our patriarchs and matriarchs, and the final resting place of our patriarchs and matriarchs, and considered one of the holiest places in Judaism, where even in the days of Moses, people would go there to pray at the graves of our ancestors. And it's still there. We still have it today. The cave of Machpelah, it's in Hebron. And when you go to the land of Israel, you could, of course, visit Hebron and visit the cave of Machpelah. And those with us on our various trips have been there and have seen the cave of Machpelah. We once did a class, I think, on Hebron, on the cave of Machpelah. Then the next part of the parsha, Abraham now decides that it's time for his son to get married. His son Yitzchak. His son is actually not so young. He's 40 years old. And so, but he doesn't want him to marry a local Canaanite, but he wants him to rather marry a relative. The reason given by commentaries is the Canaanites did not have good personality, even though Abraham's relatives were also idolaters, not monotheists, but at least they were kind and had good character. Because Abraham's family had this natural good character that the Talmud says that continues on among the Jewish people, that we are naturally rachmanim, we're naturally merciful and kind. And so Abraham sends his servant Eliezer back to Haran, where he came from, to find a relative for his son to marry. And his servant comes with 10 camels laden full of gifts and stops at the well outside of Haran. And instead of doing it the normal way, going into town, meeting the family, introducing himself, and then interviewing perhaps the prospective brides, he instead sits by the well and he says, "Hashem, here's the deal. The next person who comes to the well, I'm going to ask them to draw water for me. And if I'm telling them I'm thirsty, can you give me some water to drink? And if they offer to give me water to drink, and then offer to also draw water to feed my thirsty camels, then I will know that that's the right person." And indeed, as he's speaking, Rivka comes out. She's a shepherd. She comes with her sheep. She goes down to the well to draw water. He goes over to her, asks her for a little sip of water. She says, "I'll give not only you a sip, I'll give all your camels to drink." And she hurries and she draws water, took time and fills the trough of the water trough so that all the camels are able to drink their full. And so Eliezer is very happy. He gives her jewelry and appreciation, and he asks her, "What's your name? Who's your family, and do you have a place for me to stay?" And she introduced herself as Rivka, the daughter of Bethuel, the granddaughter of Nachar, who Eliezer knows is Abraham's brother, so she's part of the family. And she offers a place for him to stay. He comes in, and he meets the father, Bethuel, and the brother Lavan, and They offer him to eat. He says, before I eat, I got business to deal with. And he tells them the whole story, how Hashem designated Rivka as a wife for Yitzchak. And therefore he asks that they allow Rivka to go and marry Yitzchak. And they agree. They allow her to go. And the next, they agree for her to marry Yitzchak. He gives them the gift. And then the next morning, he says, all right, time for me to go home. I'm going to take Rivka with me. They say, well, not so quickly. We just arranged the marriage. Got to give her some time. He says, no, I'm on a mission and I need to go back. And so he goes back, and over there, Rivka meets Yitzchak, and they marry, and then they fall in love. That the Torah says that's the way the order works, right? First you marry, you fall in love, right? That's how it works in real life. Subject of its own one day, but one day we could talk about that as a separate subject. And Yitzchak is now comforted after the loss of his mother. So that's the second part of the parsha. The third part of the parsha tells us that Abraham, who is now well over 100 right now, decides to marry again. He marries a woman whose name is Keturah, according to Rashi and the Midrashim. She was actually his first wife, Hagar. He brought her back. And together they have 6 more children. But then Abraham eventually sends those children away and gives everything that he has to his son Yitzchak. Those other children he gives gifts to, but Yitzchak is his essentially continuation of the covenant with Hashem. It then tells us that Abraham dies at the ripe old age of 175. He's buried in the cave of Machpelah, and then tells us that his son Yishmael becomes a great nation, has 13 children, each of which become their own tribes, and they settle in the desert. And that's the way the parsha ends. And then next week we move on to talk about Yitzchak and Rivka. Any questions on the parsha? Yes, Devin. Sorry.
175 he died at.
Yes.
Was the time different?
That is an excellent question. You may recall that a couple months ago we did a class on why people lived so long, or did people live so long in biblical times. And we discussed that. We believe so. We discussed that in detail when we did that class, and how it was possible, and should we take it at face value. All that we discussed in that class. It's on the podcast, so I suggest that you go and listen to it.
It was different.
Any other questions? Yes, Stella.
So, Sarah died for the impression for that was Abraham put to him for sacrifice. You think she died for the
Rashi tells us that Sarah died after hearing that Abraham was going to slaughter her son Yitzchak. Yes.
So we was talking yesterday with Anna, and you think like a women sometimes are faith coming a little down because she sees the miracle without her son, and she don't believe God was testing.
Oh, was that a weakness that she died? I don't know. I don't know. Very good question.
No.
You can't blame her. I mean, you think you're going to lose your only child. I mean, that's a pretty difficult
but
thing.
that she know God can give it to her back.
I don't know. So today we're going to discuss, it's always on topic, we're going to discuss the mitzvah of being happy. Very important topic. Everyone wants to be happy, and yet most people struggle to be happy. Life is definitely more pleasant when we are happy. It also makes us happy people are more pleasant to be around. People like us more when we're happy, right? We're a lot more pleasant to be around. So for others, it's a good idea to be happy. Studies have shown that happy people, or people that are happier, are more successful, they're healthier, they live longer than those who are less happy. So there are definitely great benefits to be happy, and virtually everyone wants to be happy and strives to be happy. It's simply a lot more pleasant, much better way to live. And for many, it's an ideal and a goal that they strive to be happy. Yet, happiness can often be elusive, and a lot of people struggle to find happiness. Now, in Judaism, not only is happiness a good thing, happiness and good for a person, healthy, it's also a religious imperative. It's a mitzvah to be happy. In Psalms, it tells us, "Ivdu et Hashem b'simcha," serve Hashem with happiness. Our sages say that we should always do mitzvot, always follow Hashem's commandments with joy. Simcha shel mitzvah, the joy of doing a mitzvah. In fact, when the Torah in Parshat Ki Tavo lists the various punishments that will come to us if we do not follow God's instructions and we rebel against Him, it says that all these things happen Tachat asher lo ahavta et Hashem Elokecha b'simcha, because you did not serve Hashem your God with joy. So we get punished for not serving Hashem with joy. We are supposed to not just follow the commandments, but do so happily. So we have a religious obligation to be happy. Now, being happy, to be clear, is not one of the 613 commandments. Since all of those are quantifiable commandments, it's very hard to quantify the commandment to be happy. Right? Hard to define that. But it is still a moral imperative in Judaism and something that is expected for us to be happy. Not only that, in the Tanya, in the book of Tanya, written by Rabbi Zalman of Liadi, known as the Alter Rebbe, it explains that life is a battle. Every person has two parts of them within them. We have an animal soul, which is a self-centered soul that wants me to do what I want, what I feel like, what's good for me, thinking about myself. And we have what we call a godly soul, or a God-centered soul that wants me to do the right thing, the correct thing, what is expected of me, what is supposed to be done. And life is a battle between these two sides. We have two sides within us, and life is a constant battle. And even good people are constantly struggling with a negative and evil inclination, pulling them to be selfish, pulling them to be self-centered, pulling them not to do what they're supposed to be doing. And even bad people have a godly side, a good side that's pushing them to do the right thing, making them feel guilty for the wrong things that they're doing. So life is a constant battle from the day we're born to the day we die. Our life is a battle between these two sides. And then the Tanya points out that to overcome the daily internal battle of life, you need an enormous amount of motivation and drive. And to have that motivation and drive, you need an enormous amount of energy. Happy people are motivated and energized, and therefore they will have the energy and the motivation to do the right thing and make the right decisions that they know is correct. However, people who are sad, people who are unhappy, are lethargic and slow and weak. And as a result, they lose their battles. In the Tanya, it gives an example. If two people are wrestling, even if one is stronger than the other, but if they are not motivated, if they are sad and depressed, they will lose. And so in order to win, in order to overcome the challenges of life, the daily struggles of life, you need to be energized and motivated. In order to follow Hashem's the commandments, we need to be energized and motivated. We will not succeed in fulfilling the commandments if we are sad and depressed and lethargic. And that's actually why people that are not happy tend to do more bad things, because they can't overcome their negative inclination. So to win those daily battles, we need to be happy. Therefore, it is an imperative that we make sure that we are happy. But that's easier said than done. How does a person make themselves happy? Susan, you have a question?
Does the Torah distinguish the word happiness from joy? Because I looked up the definition and they're two different things according to the definition.
Okay, those are English words. Does the Torah differentiate between happiness and joy? I guess we can. I'm using them as synonyms. The Torah uses the word simcha, and we'll soon talk about that. What exactly is happiness? So, firstly, happiness is an emotional state where a person feels content or free of concern. And in theory, a person would become happy when all their worries and concerns are gone, right? In reality, though, that is very hard to achieve because life is full of challenges. And even if someone can find one day in their life when all of their worries and concerns are gone, it won't last very long. In real life, there's always going to be challenges. So more often, in reality, happiness comes from positive events that happen to drown out any worries or concerns that we have. So you get a moment of euphoria or excitement, something exciting happened, you made a good deal, a child was born, it's a bar mitzvah, it's a wedding, there's something exciting happened, you found a cheap deal, whatever, you bought a new car, you got a new house. Exciting events in life tend to drown out any worries or concerns that we have. We do have worries and concerns, but those exciting events, the excitement of the event makes us happy because it drowns out the concerns, at least temporarily. However, the euphoria, the excitement that comes from these positive occurrences is temporary. The happiness disappears when the excitement dissipates. And that's why in the English word happy actually comes from the same word as happen or haphazard, which means random or luck. Because you get lucky, good things happen, and then you're happy temporarily. But then when things no longer happen, then you're no longer happy. So it's only temporary. That's what happens when your happiness comes from events or things that happen. It's very temporary. It's not going to make you more successful, healthier, or more pleasant over the long term. Exciting things can make you happy over the short term, and you'll likely never get rid of enough stresses in your life to really be happy. Most people don't. It's very, very rare for people to really just have absolutely nothing to worry about. And so as a result, being happy from events, occurrences, things that happen is usually not a very effective way to be happy. It gives you moments of happiness, and we love those moments, so we keep trying to create these events because they feel so good, but it's very hard to recreate them and create them often enough, have enough exciting things happen to us that we will constantly be happy. So we need to find a solution where we can make ourselves happy over the longer term. And in fact, in Hebrew, the Hebrew word for happiness is simcha. Simcha. And the Zohar points out that the word simcha, joy, has the same Hebrew letters as machshava, thought. And that's because we believe that happiness does not come from what happens to us, but real simcha, real joy, happiness, comes from what we're thinking from our minds. So most people attempt to fulfill their quest for happiness by finding happiness in things. For some, it's a quest for money and possessions. Above all, the more money they have, the happier they think they'll get. And the more possessions they have, the happier they think they'll get. And the reason for it is obvious, because one of the greatest stresses, if not the greatest stress that most people feel, is a struggle for money. Money is a huge stressor. Some people are lucky not to have that stress. Most people do struggle with finances in one way or another. And so therefore, people assume that since the stress, the thing that makes them unhappy, is a lack of money or lack of things, if they have more money and more things, it will make them happier. But it doesn't really work that way. Because firstly, Even if you have all the money in the world, there are plenty of other stresses in life besides money. There are plenty of people with lots and lots of money that are still not happy because life is full of all sorts of other stresses. And there's all sorts of other reasons that a person would be unhappy. Secondly, humans have this funny relationship with money and things, where the more you have, the higher your expectations become. So someone who has $1 million wants 2 million, right? Whatever you have, you want more. Before you had a car, all you want is just to own a car, and you're happy with a little hatchback. Then, however, once you have the car, you're not happy with the car. You need something better. And then that's not good enough. You need something even bigger and better. And then that's not good enough, right? And you keep seeking for something bigger and better. And we keep looking for more. So what happens is, as we get certain things and we get used to the things we have, our expectations grow when it comes to things. And we're never satisfied with what we have. So money and possessions don't generally make people happy. Although lack of money and possessions tend to make people unhappy, having them does not make you happy. Susan?
I was going to say, I consider it sort of an addiction because when you're addicted to something, you always want more. And it's people who are, it's not only gamblers and people who drink, but it's people who spend money, the shopaholics. It's like they go and they shop and they shop and they shop. I mean, how much stuff can they have, right?
Right, so money, very good point, Susan. Money.
It's a temporary high.
Money gives you a temporary high. You're absolutely right. And the more, every time you get it, you think you need more of it and you need more of it. And the same was with shopping and the same as with many other things. So other people find more meaningful things to make them happy. Also, happenings, things that happen to them, experiences, hobbies people turn to, travel, sports, golf, all sorts of things, athletics, all sorts of things that will make them they think will make them happy. They achieve things, they experience things, and those experiences will make them happy. So we have similar challenges with that. These things can only again bring you temporary joy, a temporary high at the moment of the experience. You need to keep experiencing it. You need to keep growing your hobby, or keep running and winning marathons, or keep getting holes in one on your golf course, or keep keep doing the same thing again and again and again, and increasing your tempo in order to continuously be happy. It's like getting things. You get a high from a short-term thing, and you got to keep doing it again and again and again to get that high. And then at some point, you could no longer do it because you can no longer run or exercise because your legs have given way, or you can no longer travel because of health problems. And then suddenly you're stuck. You can't do it anymore. Also, like money, these things, these hobbies, although they do give you moments of high, they do not drown out the other challenges a person faces. So some people, in order to be happy, turn to more meaningful things. Family, friends, to bring happiness. Socializing with others, socializing with others, raising family, spending time with family to help bring happiness. Now, it's a little bit hard to find happiness in others because you're somewhat dependent on them. When they have time for you and when they treat you well, then it will bring you happiness. But when they get too busy for you, when your grandchildren grow up and now they're adults and they have the life of their own, then suddenly they can't bring you the same happiness anymore. You can't spend that kind of time with them anymore. So it's hard to find happiness in such a thing. It will give you some level of happiness, but it also won't fully drown out the other stresses of life. So most people spend their life pursuing happiness in various things, whether in money, whether in shopping, whether in things, whether in hobbies or travel or sports, or family, or socializing, which those last two, family and social, give you much more of a permanent happiness, longer term than just from the happenings, from the thrill of the moment. But still, all these things, people spend their lives chasing them, and they only offer fleeting moments of happiness and don't make them truly happy. So there must be another way to find happiness that can help you overcome the stresses of life, although you'll never get rid of them, but be happy in spite of the stresses of life, and that can make you be happy over a long term. And that is called spiritual happiness. Spiritual happiness can make a person happy over the long term and help drown out the other stresses so it doesn't take away from their happiness. The problem is, many people live a very materialistic life and have never really lived, not all, but many people have never really lived a spiritually oriented life. So when you tell people you can find spiritual happiness, you can find happiness from spirituality, that sounds very strange. The Baal Shem Tov, the founder of Chassidus, explained this problem in a parable. He said, once there was an amazing musician who stopped in the town square and he began to play. People walking past were mesmerized by his music and they stopped to listen. And soon a large crowd gathered around and were glued to this amazing musician. And as he continued to play, there was this huge crowd. Much of the square was now full of people listening to his music. And some people started to dance to the music. And soon the dancing itself was contagious and other people began to dance. And soon the entire town square was dancing to this amazing music that the musician was playing. And just then, a deaf man walked into the town square and saw people dancing. He can't hear the music. He didn't see the guy playing. He thought everyone must have gone crazy. Why is everyone suddenly dancing in the town square? The view of this deaf man, explained the Baal Shem Tov, is similar to the way many people with little experience in spirituality react to the idea of finding happiness from spirituality. If you don't hear the music, you don't understand what's making them dance, what's making them so happy. And yet in Judaism, and particularly based on the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov himself, who stressed the importance of being happy, we believe that it's not only possible for us to find spiritual happiness, it is something that everyone can and should find spiritual happiness. So how do we do that? How do we find spiritual happiness? So earlier, we quoted from the book of Tanya by the Alter Rebbe, where he speaks in detail about how every person has two souls. A self-centered soul, that he calls the animal soul, that's focused on oneself. How can I further my success? How can I further my self-gratification? How can I make myself happier? What's in it for me? A soul, a person where the center of their universe is themselves. And it's all, what is in it for me? What am I going to get out of this? How can I make myself better? How can I make myself more successful? How can I make myself happier? How can I make myself more gratified? What can I do for myself? There's another side in each of us, and that is a God-centered soul. A mission-driven soul that is focused on what was I created for? What am I supposed to be doing? What is expected of me? How can I fulfill my mission for which God placed me on earth? It is a God-centered soul, a soul that is less concerned about me, my needs, my success, my fulfillment, my happiness, and more concerned about what is expected of me, what is my job, what am I supposed to be doing, what is the right and correct thing to do. If our primary state of being is our self-centered soul, if that's, and we all have both of them, but if our primary state of being is that self-centered soul, and we live a life that revolves around ourselves, it's all about me and what's in it for me, and what am I going to get out of it, and how is it going to help me? How is it going to improve my life? Then, as much as I try, I'm never going to be happy, because my animal soul, that self-centered part of myself, has so many needs and wants. And the world around me is so challenging that virtually nobody resolves all their needs and wants in their lifetime. It's virtually impossible. I can never get everything I want. Not even close to it. I can never live my dreams. I can never fulfill all my imaginations. Even if we get one thing we want, the animal soul has this funny thing, as we mentioned, it changes the goalposts. I didn't have a car, I just wanted a car. Now that I have a car, it's a little hatchback. I need something bigger and more comfortable. And even then I have the bigger sedan. No, now I need an SUV. But then even with the SUV, now I need a sports car, right? And so it keeps getting bigger and more demanding. You have one thing, your expectations keep growing. So with your animal self-centered self, if you live a self-centered life, we can have moments of happiness when we have an achievement, or we experience we get something, or we win something, or we achieve something, we accomplish something. Maybe that's strong enough to push away other challenges temporarily. But those moments are fleeting. And most of the time we aren't happy, and it becomes an addictive search to keep trying to get those moments of happiness, those moments of euphoria. We want to keep getting them, but they keep running away from us. We get it, we get used to what we have, and we want more. The key, therefore, says the Tanya, is that we need to become more God soul-centered. If we change our perspective, I'm not living life for myself. My goal is not for me to succeed, for me to be happy. My goal is to fulfill the mission for which I was placed here. My goal is to make an impact in this world because that's what I'm supposed to be doing. It doesn't matter about me. It's not for me to reach a certain place or to get something or to experience something. It's God-centered. It's what is expected of me. What am I supposed to be here for? I'm not living for myself to succeed and be happy, but to fulfill the mission why I'm here. So if I'm God-centered, then yes, I have all sorts of challenges that I need to deal with. I cannot ignore. I need resources to be able to feed myself and to be able to put a roof over my head. I need a social network to be able to satisfy my social needs. I need food to eat. There are things I need. I need a job to be able to earn money. I need a successful job to be able to support also a family. Yes, I need certain things, but that is not my primary goal. That's not my primary purpose of living. My primary purpose is to do what is expected of me, to do what I'm supposed to be doing. And that is most important. The other things, they're all secondary. They don't matter that much. So my car has some dents in it. So my car is 10 years old. Does that really matter in the big scheme of things? It doesn't matter as long as I'm making a positive impact in this world. So I live in a 1-bedroom, 1,000 square foot apartment. So what? Yes, if I can get more and I can live more comfortably, by all means, nothing wrong with getting a new car if you have the money for it, but that doesn't bother me. That's not my concern, that I need the latest gadgets. So what that I have an older model? Doesn't matter, right? Yes, you can afford it and it's going to make you more comfortable. By all means, nothing wrong with getting it, nothing wrong with being comfortable. If in fact, with a bigger home, a better car, it will make you more successful in fulfilling your mission. But don't obsess over it. It doesn't matter that much. Yes, I enjoy traveling, but that's not what I'm here for. That's not my purpose. I'm not living to travel. That's not what I was created for. That's not why I'm here. Yes, I need to exercise. I need to stay healthy, but that's not what I was created for. I'm living for purpose. I'm living a purpose-driven life, a mission-driven life. When you stop thinking about yourself and start thinking about how I can make an impact, how I can help others, how I can make a difference, then suddenly all those things don't matter that much anymore. It makes me a lot happier. Indeed, studies have shown that people are happiest when they are focused on others. That's, by the way, why the family really helps, right? When you're taking care of family, you're focused on others, you're mission-centered. People who spend their life volunteering, or people who have a role to help others, that's their job, or they spend a lot of time focused on helping others. Studies show time and again, they are the happiest people. People that are not self-centered, but mission-driven, that are focused on making an impact, they are the happiest people because their mission and purpose makes my own, what I have, and my own stresses not that important. Doesn't get rid of them. They don't disappear. I still need to take care of these things, but it's not as important anymore. And therefore they don't stress me because I can be happy over the meaningful things that I am doing. But there's more than that. It's more than just not being self-centered. We reach happiness when we have purpose in our lives. But in Judaism, it's not just any purpose. Anyone, even an atheist, can have purpose in their life. They can be, helping the world, changing the world. In Judaism, it's not only to help others. Our purpose in life is to serve Hashem, to follow what Hashem has instructed us. We believe that every single one of us was created with a purpose and a unique role and mission in making our world more godly by following Hashem's commandments, both ritual and interpersonal commandments. And every time we fulfill Hashem's commandments, we have an amazing opportunity to connect to our Creator. When we think about it for a moment, I am just one of 8 billion people on this planet. Just this very, very small number. You can't even count 8 to 8 billion in your lifetime, right? There's 8 billion people. That's a huge number. I'm just one, right? So I'm very minuscule compared to the size of the world out there. Then, however, I recognize that our planet is just a tiny, tiny planet in a very, very, very large galaxy, of which our planet is just a speck, which from the other end of the galaxy, you couldn't even see our sun, it's so small. And then when you realize that our galaxy is a very small galaxy in a universe with who knows how many galaxies there are, and you realize how minusculely small I am. I'm so small. Our whole Earth is so small. And think of what we fight over. Does that really matter? Think of how tiny I am in the bigger picture. And then when you think about it, our entire universe is really just finite. All finite itself is infinitely distant from the infinite. So me and the entire universe is of equal distance from infinity. Hashem, our Creator, is truly infinite, truly stands above everything, to which I am just a minuscule speck in an infinitesimally small universe, one of 8 billion other specks on this tiny, tiny planet. He gave, and so we are nothing. None of it really matters. All that self-centeredness, who are you anyway? Why do you really make a difference? Who cares? And then when you think about it, and you remember and you remind yourself that this infinite Creator gave me instructions and a mission to fulfill. He gave me a unique role to fulfill here on earth. In fact, he created me in particular, an infinitesimally small speck in this vast universe, because he has a mission and purpose for me. I have things that I am supposed to fulfill in this universe that no other creation in this universe can fulfill those things that he expects me to do. And when I recognize that, that gives me this amazing ability to connect to him, to infinity, to connect to what is so much greater than me, than you, than anything around us. Think, for example, let me tell you about Bob. Bob is a illiterate fellow who happened to live in a town called Princeton, little and about 90 years ago. One day, Bob, who just works at menial jobs, never learned to read, never went to school, one day he's walking down the street and he sees Albert Einstein strolling with a few students. Now, Bob has seen Einstein on television. Television was just invented. And he knows that Einstein is the smartest man alive. He has no idea why. But he is awed by the fact that he saw Einstein. He's excited, but he keeps a safe distance because he has nothing in common with Einstein. He isn't relevant to a man as brilliant as Einstein. He has nothing to talk to Einstein about. Doesn't understand physics, knows nothing about the theories of relativity. He has nothing to talk to Einstein about. But then Einstein notices Bob at a distance, and he turns to him and he says, "Excuse me, sir, can you please tell me the time?" And Bob is now so excited. Einstein spoke to him. And he shares the time with Einstein. He has helped this brilliant professor. The request was very, very small. But now Bob is important to Einstein. Even if it was just for just a moment. It's going to be a moment Bob will never forget for his entire life. Think of it. We are infinitesimally small, tiny beings. One of 8 billion on an infinitesimally small planet in a tiny solar system, in a very small galaxy. And you, each one of you and I, have been placed here by the infinite creator, although we're so small, with a purpose and a mission and something that we're supposed to do. That every one of us are supposed to do. Something that every single one of us has something that we can achieve. We've been given instructions, and we suddenly have the ability to make ourselves and our finite world around us useful to the infinite. And that's why King David said that your mitzvot, your commandments, are more precious to me than gold and silver. Every time you do a mitzvah, you have the ability to connect to the infinite. And so now we can understand simcha shel mitzvah, the joy of a mitzvah. A mitzvah should be what makes us truly happy. It's not happiness from regular sensory pleasure, from an experience, from something that happened. It's not even happiness from feeling fulfilled or loved. It's an abstract happiness from the excitement of being able to do something truly meaningful in a world, in a universe where we recognize is truly meaningless. Our lives is truly meaningless. It's infinitesimally small in a universe at 8 billion people. I'm just one of 8 billion. In this country, you're one of 300 million. Something happened to you. Doesn't really matter in the biggest scheme of things, but you have a unique role to fulfill that only you can fulfill. And this gives you this amazing power, this amazing ability to connect to the infinite by doing something meaningful. It's like someone who one day does their DNA testing, and they discover they actually have royal blood. They have royal roots. They have something unique and special about them. We live with that discovery that a lot of the things that we think are important, they don't really matter. In fact, ourselves and our self-centered selves, they don't really matter either. But we have the ability to connect to something so much greater, to connect, to become part of the infinite creator. We have found a true treasure, found our true selves. And that is why our sages said that just as when before we eat food, we turn to God and we thank Him for the food that He gave us. We say a bracha, a blessing. In the same way they said, every time you do a mitzvah, before you do a mitzvah, turn to Hashem and thank Him for the unique opportunity to do this mitzvah. And that is why every time we do a mitzvah, we make a bracha. We thank Hashem, bless Hashem, and thank Him for this unique opportunity to be able to do a mitzvah. And so now, if we can get ourselves to stop living a self-centered life and keep thinking, this person, look at what they did to me. Look at what they said to me. It insults me. It bothers me. They looked at me the wrong way. I need this. I need that. I want to experience this. I want everyone to respect me. I want this. If we stop thinking about ourselves, don't worry about yourself. You don't really matter. You're infinitesimally small. You're one of 8 billion people in an infinitesimally small speck of the universe. Don't worry about yourself. Worry about what am I here for? What am I able to achieve? What am I able to accomplish? What is expected of me? I have a unique role and opportunity that I was created for. I am here on a mission and I was given purpose and I have the opportunity to fulfill that purpose and become part of the infinite by doing so, become meaningful to the infinite. Then we stop worrying about ourselves. The worries of life don't disappear, but they no longer concern us and worry us. And we can be truly happy with the opportunity that we have, the ability that we have to make an impact and to make a difference. And then when a person feels that way, and we have to keep telling this to ourselves because it's not a natural state of being, but when we feel that way, that even when we face really big challenges, we're still happy. They don't bother us. We have to overcome them. We can't ignore them. We cannot ignore challenges. We still have to live. We won't be able to fulfill our mission if we don't deal with the various challenges we face. If we don't have a roof over our heads and food to eat, and we don't exercise to stay healthy and deal with our health problems, then we won't be able to fulfill our other missions. They're important too, but they're not worried about them. That is why they tell a story about the great chassid, Remendel Futterfass. Remendel Futterfass was a great chassid in the early 20th century, lived in the 20th century, not that long ago, and he was arrested by the Soviets in the 1940s, and he spent 10 years in the gulags. And he came out, and he was a great teacher afterwards when he came out of the Soviet Union in the 1960s, and he shared many, many life lessons that he learned while he was in the gulags. Today there's books of his lessons that you could get. And he told the story how once the prisoners around him, they were sitting and talking together with the other prisoners in the gulag where he was, and they asked him, why are you always so happy? How can you be happy? We're working every day, 12 hours a day, back-breaking labor. It's freezing cold, middle of Siberia. We don't have proper things to wear. We're struggling with health problems. We're far from our family. We're imprisoned in this place. How can you be happy? And so he responded, as every Jew, of course, does, with a question. Well, why are you so sad? They said, sad? They went around and each one shared. I used to be a doctor. And I was growing in my field and doing really well, and I had a family. And then I was arrested because in the Soviet Union, everyone got arrested sooner or later, right? It was just a matter of when, right? They said in the Soviet Union, there were 3 kinds of people. People that had been in prison previously, people that are currently in prison, and people that will be in prison. So he said, then they got arrested and now they're stuck in Gulag. The next person says, I was an engineer. I built a career. I had grown up, been doing really well. And then I got arrested. I lost everything. And each one went through their lives of what they had, how they had lived beforehand. And now they're stuck in this Gulag. Backbreaking labor, not enough food to eat, freezing cold. How can they be happy? And Reb Mendel said, my life has always been to do whatever Hashem asks of me. My life has always been to fulfill my purpose for which I was created. And wherever I am, I find my mission of whatever it might be, whatever Hashem expects from me at that moment. So when I was free, I found my mission. And indeed, Reb Mendel had a mission, and he he built many Jewish underground schools, and he helped thousands of Jews escape the Soviet Union, which is why he was sent to the gulags. And so he fulfilled his mission. But now that I'm here in the gulag, Hashem has a mission for me too. And I'm fulfilling my mission over here. How can I not be happy? And so now that's, of course, a very difficult thing to be able to overcome such great challenges and be happy. But when a person truly doesn't focus on themselves, moves away from their animal soul, realizes that I, as I, don't really matter, but I, as part of a bigger purpose, as part of a mission is what matters, then when it's not about me, but about what am I expected for, what am I supposed to be doing, why did Hashem put me here, then the challenges of life no longer bother us, and we can live in a state of constant happiness. Now, it can be a hard thing to do because it's not a natural state of being, right? The natural state, the kind of default human state, is to always think about ourselves. It's not a natural state of being, so we need to constantly remind ourselves and constantly think about it. But what if someone is having a hard time and focusing on their godly soul and just doesn't feel happy? So one of our great thinkers, Rabbeinu Bachaya, wrote, "Acharei hamochim nimshachim, acharei hamasim nimshachim halevavot." Our emotions follow our actions. And it's really an amazing thing. When a person acts a certain way, it gets them to feel a certain way. And they've actually done studies where they've asked people to smile, and as a result of smiling, it made them feel better. And so even if you don't feel happy yet, it's a work in progress, it's a lifelong effort to make ourselves feel happy. Even if you don't feel happy yet, pretend to be happy. Guaranteed it will make you happier. Smile. Be cheerful. Be joyful. Welcome people. Be happy around others. Be happy to yourself. Pretend to be happy. And the more you pretend to be happy, the happier it will make you. But pretending, of course, is not enough. It's not going to ultimately make you happy. It will make you happier to a degree. Ultimately, the key to happiness is become less self-centered and more God-centered. Remember, it's not me that matters, but it's what I am truly needed for that matters. Yes, Susan?
So most people wonder what their mission is. So are you saying in the last, I'll say story you told us about looking at your mission as where you are at that point in your life and saying, this is my mission, this is what God is having me do right now, so make the best of it?
Absolutely. So we did a class about 6 months ago, how to find your life mission. You may recall. And if you don't, it's on the podcast, and I would encourage you to listen to it again. So, but in short, we're not told the exact things that we're supposed to do in life. But Hashem has expectations of us, which includes not a single act, but it can include many, many, many acts that can also evolve over our lifetime. It doesn't necessarily stay static our entire life. It may change. But in every place that we are, in every opportunity we find ourselves, we need to try to do what we can to make a meaningful impact through following Hashem's commandments. So both in ritual commandments and in interpersonal commandments, right? Helping others, how we treat others. In both of them, we need to make a meaningful impact wherever we are, however we are, in any situation we might be in. We always have to do what we can to make a meaningful impact. Yes?
There's an expression and it says, grow where you're planted.
Grow where you're planted. Very good. Excellent. I like that. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, wherever you are, you can grow, but not grow yourself. You can grow around you. And that's the key, right? A lot of people, right, you say make the best of your situation, are thinking about themselves, right? I'm going to make the best of myself, be the most successful and, help myself as much as possible. That's a mistake, right? If we live a self-centered life, we'll never be happy. If you want to be happy, you have to live a mission-centered life, purpose-driven life. Yes, Mark?
Where does procreating fit in on the scale of doing what Hashem expects of us?
Procreating is the first of the 613 commandments.
Okay.
Yes. And we have done a class on it before. It's an ideal mitzvah that anyone who can. You need certain conditions to be ripe to be able to procreate. Not everyone can. You need to, ideally in Judaism, we only believe in procreation within marriage. So you would have to find the right spouse and be able to physically have children. Fortunately, not everyone is blessed with that ability. And so not everyone is given the ability to fulfill that mitzvah. Most people are, and it's a very great mitzvah to fulfill. And also one of the most fulfilling and happiness-inducing things that a person can do. However, I think we mentioned then in our class about procreation that Isaiah speaks to the many in his days who were unable to have children as a result of the war, and the Assyrians had a policy of castrating men. And so there were many, many men around in his times who could not have children. And he tells them that you can still make a meaningful, lasting impact in life in this world without having children of your own, by making an impact on others around you. And you can make a long-term impact through your actions. And so no one is ever placed in a situation where they cannot fulfill their mission. So whatever you're supposed to be doing in your current situation, you can make the most of it and make a very meaningful impact.
What do you think the role of acceptance where you are and gratitude where you are?
Gratitude is very, very important, recognizing the good things that you have. Absolutely. It helps a person be happier. Look, there's many other things that help you become happier. We once did a 6-week class on happiness. Some of you may remember it. So there's many, many things. I tried to limit it here so that we could finish on time. So I tried to focus on what I think is the primary key to happiness. But yes, acceptance of your situation, which really